So today we need to talk about and break down one of the biggest storylines in all of college football, something we talked lightly about during both live streams on Sunday and on Monday. But that's Deion Sanders to Colorado. Because guys, if you think that this is something that might not work, I have other news for you. Deion Sanders is absolutely somebody who moves the needle, and today we're going to break down this entire situation and talk about why Deion Sanders might put college football on notice and why you need to be aware about it. Before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe that Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffs are going to make an impact to the transfer portal and win the portal this year? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions are massive. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And where do you want to start? How do we want to start talking about this? Because one of the greatest NFL players to ever put on pads is now the head coach at Colorado. And make no mistake, Deion Sanders is not just a successful football player. He's also a successful baseball player and obviously a successful head coach. Just look at what he did at Jackson State. Now he makes that jump to the Power 5. And where do we want to start? Do we want to start talking about the meeting he had with the players that's going viral, where he basically said, hey, if you're not going to be able to play winning football, if you don't want to be here, there's the door. Go ahead and quit. To which a lot of people feel some type of way about, and here's my reaction to that. Those conversations happen all the time inside locker rooms. Those are not novel conversations. It's different because it's Deion, and his approach is different, but make no mistake about it. Do not be disenfranchised into thinking those are conversations that never happen in locker rooms. In a lot of institutions, there are quote-unquote exit interviews at the end of the year, and the coaches will straight up tell you, hey, you might not be able to see playing time here. You might hit the transfer portal and see what other options are out there for you. So this is not a unique situation. What's unique about it is the way that Coach Prime moves. This is somebody who moves the needle in college football. He moves the needle, and it is so apparent. We talk about this all the time on the channel. Prospects, coaches that move the needle, and how that can get the ball rolling. And what do I mean when I say Coach Prime moves the needle? Well, first and foremost, he hasn't been the head coach of Colorado for a week, and already it's being reported that over 200 prospects, both in the transfer portal and recruiting prospects, have reached out to Colorado. On top of that, we need to look no further than his ability to recruit at Jackson State, where he got the #1 player in his respective class, Travis Hunter, to decommit from Florida State and choose Jackson State over the likes of Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, and really any institution that Travis Hunter wanted to go to. He was such a gifted prospect, not only as a cornerback, this was a dude that was making plays at wide receiver and continued to do so on 7-on-7s in high school. And if I'm not mistaken, during his time at Jackson State, this is a true difference maker. Coach Prime was able to get him to come to Jackson State. Now, why? Because he got Travis Hunter to put faith in Coach Prime over an institution. He got a prospect to put faith in the individual over the institution. Well, now guess what? That individual has a Power 5 institution with all the media exposure one could want, and he's already looking to leverage it. If you listened to his interview, you heard that. They are going to have the media all around that program because they want the exposure. And to triple down, whenever Winston Watkins Jr., a 5-star wide receiver in the class of 2025, committed to Colorado, pretty much instantly after Deion Sanders was named as head coach, Travis Hunter quote tweeted that and said that was fast, which in and of itself is nothing, but when you look at the totality of circumstances that I've just presented, I think it's a very clear indication that we can all expect Travis Hunter to end up at Colorado. It's not an if, it's a win. And when will be after that bowl game is completed, after the season is officially over for Jackson State, and then I expect we can see that move. So this is somebody who moves the needle for prospects in recruiting because he hasn't even been there a week. Deion Sanders has not been at Colorado a week, and he's already gotten a 5-star wide receiver in the class of 2025 from IMG Academy in Florida. And if you can establish healthy pipelines in the state of Florida, which guess what, Coach Prime can, you're going to do just fine. If we look at this current recruiting class, there's 54 individuals located in the state of Florida that are in the top 300 prospects per 24/7 Sports, which is absolutely nutty. So Coach Prime already has access to a fertile recruiting ground in Florida. He's a guy who moves the needle, and we need to really dive into the transfer portal. And let's dive into the transfer portal, because we talked about the 5-star he got instantly in the class of 2025, but what can Colorado fans expect out the transfer portal this season? We've already kind of hinted at Travis Hunter, but a name you know you're going to have without a shadow of a doubt, Deion Sanders, Deion's son, who played quarterback at Jackson State, and not only played quarterback, excelled at the quarterback position. Let's dive into this, because Deion Sanders threw for 3,383 yards, had a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio at 36 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, and did all of this behind a shaky offensive line that allowed 21 sacks. If we cross-reference that with Colorado's offensive stats, the sack numbers are fairly analogous. So this isn't a situation where Deion Sanders is walking into a new system and is going to have an offensive line that is statistically much worse than the one he just came from. No, he's used to dealing with shaky offensive line play, but we also have to expect that Deion is going to address the offensive line through the transfer portal with some of the great names in the portal along that offensive line, such as a Javion Cohen, who is a former starter for the University of Alabama, and if he could get him, that would be huge. But if we even look further into Colorado's offensive stats, we can look at the passing numbers for the Buffs and see how that compares to Deion Sanders. Because whenever Deion introduced his son, he said, there's your quarterback. He's going to have to earn it, but there's your quarterback. And I believe him, both when he says there's your quarterback and he's going to have to earn it. Look, Deion's going to want to create a competitive environment. That's going to be something that's conducive to success for Colorado, and he knows this. And on top of that, I just think that right now, as we sit here and speak, Deion Sanders is by far and away the best option for Colorado. Because if we dive into the quarterback stats for the Buffs from this year, 5 quarterbacks threw a pass, and if we combined all of their passing yards, it is just over 2,000 yards. So Deion Sanders was more productive than the entirety of the Colorado quarterback room. Yeah, I expect him to be the quarterback there. I do. I think that he's a very talented quarterback. I think he's an incredibly underrated quarterback. And one thing we have to remember, this was a top 300 prospect coming out of high school. This was a guy that was highly recruited coming out of high school. So it's not like he got to Jackson State and then started excelling. No, he has been excelling since day dot. Why would that change now? Why would it change now? I don't expect it to. Deion Sanders has been a very, very effective quarterback. But it's not just Deion Sanders. It's not just Travis Hunter that I would be on the lookout for. I have a bunch of names I think you need to watch. One of them we've talked about, Javion Cohen. Another name you need to be aware of, former 5-star running back transferred from Alabama, Trey Sanders, who's already expressed interest on Twitter about joining Coach Prime. He moves the needle. And in today's college football world, you need guys who move the needle. And Coach Prime very clearly is moving the needle. Some other names to watch out for. You have Jaheim Bell, the tight end from South Carolina. You have L.J. Johnson, the running back for Texas A&M. Tunmise Adeleye, defensive lineman out of Texas A&M, who's had a bit of an injury problem, but when healthy, my goodness gracious, go turn on that spring game a few years ago where he was on full display. That's a dude that's going to be a great, great player for somebody. Very interested to see where he's going to go. But if we want to talk about defensive backs, what about Fentrell Cypress? What about J.Q. Hardaway? And at wide receiver, what about Dominic Lovett from Missouri? And I would have to imagine Kevin Coleman, who came to Jackson State with Travis Hunter, will probably find his way in the portal as well, because once again, another player who is being courted by every Power 5 institution. In fact, Alabama and Miami were really going after Kevin Coleman, but he ends up at Jackson State. Why? Because he put faith in the individual over the institution. He put faith that that individual was going to develop him. Now that individual is at Colorado, at a bigger institution with more exposure. I expect Kevin Coleman to follow, and why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And it's so interesting to me because you hear all the talk about Deion, and some people are mad that he took the job. Guys, if you had an opportunity to go from making $300,000 a year to over $5 million a year, it's a no-brainer. And I don't care how rich you are. That's a no-brainer to take that opportunity. And plus, Deion wants to be a Power 5 head coach. He wants to show the world that he is a true head coach. What better way to do that than to succeed at Jackson State and then go try and succeed at the Power 5 level by turning around Colorado? We can talk about the players you need to be aware of all day long, but you want to know when a guy truly moves the needle? Look at who he hires on his staff. Because if we look at the offensive coordinator position, Deion Sanders and Colorado got a home run hire, and there is no doubt about it. Former head coach of Kent State, Sean Lewis, has taken the role as offensive coordinator. You know a guy moves the needle when someone is willing to go from head coach to offensive coordinator to be a part of what he's creating. That's a testament to the excitement Deion Sanders is generating. Don't be fooled here. This is for real. Do not think this is all hype. This is tangible. You've got a guy such as Sean Lewis that crafted some of the nation's best offenses for multiple years, now going to Colorado. And what can Colorado fans expect out of Sean Lewis? Well, if you go back and watch that Kent State offense, speed. That's the name of the game. He has got a wide open passing attack. He is going to keep a defense on their heels. He is not going to let them rest. And guess what? He's also going to field one of the nation's best rushing attacks. He had the number 3 rushing attack in all of college football in 2021. He has had a top offense in college football for years. This is a home run hire. So it's not just Coach Prime that's going to be moving the needle. Now these prospects are going to see, okay, Deion Sanders is the head coach and Sean Lewis is the offensive coordinator, a former head coach. This is real. This is real. And if anybody wants to sit there and say, okay, well, Deion and Jackson State were able to put up big offensive numbers, but is he a real coach? The answer to that is abundantly yes. Deion is a real coach. Coach Prime is for real. You want to know one of the most impressive stats, and this is what I'm going to leave you with. The most impressive stat with Jackson State isn't that they went 12-0. It's not how quickly Deion was able to make his impact into that program this year. I want you to know Jackson State's defense only allowed an average of 11.25 points per game. Do you understand how nutty that is? The number 1 and number 2 scoring defenses in all of college football are Illinois at number 1 and Georgia at number 2. And let me rephrase, the number 1 and number 2 scoring defense at all of FBS Division I college football. Illinois at 1, Georgia at number 2. Illinois is averaging 12.25 points per game. And Georgia is allowing 12.77 points per game, which means Jackson State's defense is allowing less points than the Georgia Bulldogs and Illinois. We can talk about the offense all we want. We can talk about the prospects all we want, and all of which are valid. Coach Prime can coach, and he's here to make his impact. And like he said, he's coming, and everybody better be aware. We are going to be keeping a very close eye on the Colorado situation because I am fascinated by what happens next. But know this. The hiring of Coach Prime, it's legitimate, and it's an excellent hire in my opinion. And the hype he's generating, well, that's legitimate too. And we just saw a team in the Pac-12 in USC make a coaching change going from Clay Helton to Lincoln Riley. We saw Lincoln Riley generate hype and be able to navigate the transfer portal successfully, and look at the turnaround that USC experienced. Going from 4-8 to being 1 game away from college football playoff contention. And make no mistake, that's not my contention as to what you need to expect for Colorado. I'm not saying Deion's going to take them from the current state of the Colorado Buffs to college football playoff contention in a year. Not my point. My point is we've seen the results that can be yielded when a coach is able to successfully generate hype, successfully navigate the transfer portal, and impart their imprint on a program. And I think we can expect that from Deion. Can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about this, and I can't wait to keep up with all of the events surrounding Colorado football during the offseason. We are going to be keeping a close eye on what goes on because I am absolutely fascinated. Can't wait to hear from you. That's it. See you.